My name is Howard. I have a twin brother named Dexter. We are 15 and have a sister, 17. Her name is Corinne. One weekend our parents wanted to take a weekend skiing trip, away from us kids. As luck would have it, it was also the weekend Corinne wanted to go away with some of her girlfriends. Both plans had been made several weeks in advance, but as always happens, no one talked to each other until 2 days before the big events. Neither our parents nor sister wanted to change plans. Dexter and I tried to convince them that we could stay alone. Our father agreed right away, but our mother had reservations about us staying alone. Corinne was on our side and she and father convinced mom that we were old enough to stay by ourselves. Corinne is a beautiful sister, both physically and spiritually. She knew why we wanted to be on our own that weekend. As we were growing up, the three of us would often play together, and Corinne, as most girls her age, wanted sisters, so she would dress us as girls. As we grew older, she didn't dress us up as often. There was a period of a few years when Dexter and I didn't wear dresses, but as we grew up and Corinne had to babysit for us, she again dressed us as her sisters. Both of us looked forward to her sitting for us, so we never gave her any trouble. Mom and Dad were happy because that meant that they could have a few nights out knowing that we would be all right. We would be happy because we could be Corinne's sisters. As time passed, Dex and I would buy some girl clothes at thrift shops and yard sales, which Corinne allowed us to keep in her room, all this without the knowledge of our parents. Many times during school holidays the three girls would dress up and, lately, for about 3 months now, Dex, Corinne and I would go out as sisters to places like the mall. Dexter was the most daring of us and I would always follow. I guess I drifted there for a bit, but I thought you might need a bit of history here. The reason Dex and I wanted to be by ourselves this weekend was because we wanted to spend it as Amy, that's me, and Beth, Dex. Corinne wouldn't ordinarily mind spending time with her sisters, but she made her plans for her weekend a while ago and didn't want to change. When we found out that she and Mom and Dad were going away at the same time, we told her all about our plans to spend the time as girls. Corinne told us to be sure and take pictures. We had an entire album of us three sisters hidden in her room. Mom and Dad left Friday evening. Corinne would be leaving early Saturday morning. No sooner had Mom and Dad left when Corinne started getting Dex and I ready for the weekend. She picked out several outfits for us to wear that weekend, but said we could wear some of her things as long as we didn't wear her special things. We knew what she meant, her party dresses and good dresses for instance, and her sexy night things. We had a girls' slumber party that night, something Dex and I always wanted to do. Several times we had a sort of pajama parties, but Dex and I had to change before Mom and Dad got home from their night out. This was the first time we had the party all night. The three of us wore short flannel nighties with robes and fuzzy slippers. We all slept in sleeping bags on the living room floor. Corinne and her friends did this many times when she and her girlfriends had sleepovers. Her girlfriends would leave their sleeping bags at our house, and that is what Dex and I slept in that night. The three of us had breakfast in our night clothes. Corinne was all packed and ready to go when her friends picked her up just after breakfast. We, Corinne, Dex and I all kissed each other goodbye and wished each other a good weekend. Dex and I went to our room to get dressed. We had already picked out what we were going to wear that for morning. Me in a short green plaid skirt and Donald Duck t-shirt, and Dexter in a short pink skirt and white tank top. We helped each other get dressed. It was a sort of ritual we had picked up from the time we started dressing. Neither of us could hook a bra on ourselves. We have no trouble doing it now, but we preferred doing it the old way. We would put the bra on and stand in front of each other and hook each other's bra while reaching behind each other. Dexter liked doing it this way because he says it gave him a chance to hug the sister he loved so much. He sometimes felt a little stirring in his groin when he held me this way. Sometimes he would give me a little kiss before stepping back. I didn't mind because I was not being kissed by a boy, I was being kissed by my sister. We finished dressing and stood side by side in front of the mirror to do our hair and makeup. Finished, we automatically assumed our feminine personalities. We gave each other a girly kiss and hand in hand went to watch some TV. After a light lunch, Dexter suggested we go for a walk in the park. It was a bit on the cool side, so we took light jackets and our purses. We walked to the bus stop to get the bus to the park. Our disguises were so perfect that we had no fear of being recognized. Not only did we look different, we moved different, our body language was different as was our movement and gestures. There was a ball game going on which we stopped to watch. Dexter saw a boy there who he thought he might have some fun with. I didn't know it at the time, but Dexter had a sort of crush on him. He never had the courage to do anything about it, but this time he steeled himself to do something. Every time the boy came to bat or did anything, Dexter cheered him on just like a girl would do. He convinced me to pick a guy and do the same. I did not want anything to do with a boy, but to make Dexter happy I picked a boy for myself. Dexter was hoping his guy would talk to him and, maybe, ask him out, but that was asking a bit much. It wasn't long before the boys we were cheering on noticed the two pretty girls cheering for them and strutted a little. As soon as the game was over, the two boys ran to their fans, us, and introduced themselves. The one Dex liked was a year ahead of him, us, in school. We did not know the other one. Hi. I'm Benny, this is my friend Henry. I'm Beth, this is my sister Amy. We sat on a bleacher seat and talked for a while. Dexter/Beth was in heaven while I was not a happy camper. Except for liking to dress as a girl, that is all, I had no interest in boys. It seemed like forever for me as the four of us talked. Beth tried prolonging things as long as possible so he could be with his dream as long as possible. Henry and I talked a little to be social. Henry noticed that Benny and Beth were holding hands, so he took my hand. To Beth it seemed like no more than 5 minutes, to me, more like an hour. Benny suggested we go for a soda, all were in agreement, albeit I was not that thrilled about it but felt I had no choice. The boys took us girls, hand in hand, to the soda shop. I loosened up a bit but still felt uncomfortable letting Henry hold my hand but knew it wouldn't kill me. At the soda shop, naturally, the boys sat next to their girlfriends and drank their sodas. Soon I was almost comfortable. Beth stood up, grabbed my hand and led me to the ladies' room. Amy. You have to do me the world's biggest favor. I'll love you forever. What? I'm going to ask Benny to take me out tonight. If Henry asks you, will you accept? Not a chance. I don't want to go anywhere with a boy. Please, please, please. Both of us knew that Beth would win, so I agreed, but said that if Henry tried to kiss me I would get up and leave. There was no one else in the room, so Beth did the one thing he knew would make me do anything he wanted. He kissed me fully on my lips. I would melt whenever Beth kissed me like that. Okay. I'll do it for you. But I won't like it. We were kissing again when an old woman walked in and caught us. That's disgusting. You girls should be ashamed of yourselves. There are 2 cute boys out there, why don't you stop that and go out with them? She said with disgust in her voice. Maybe you are right, Beth said. On the way back to the booth, Beth said, I wonder how she would act if she knew we were boys. We giggled all the way back to the booth. Before we left, both of us had accepted dates for the movies that night. We were to meet the boys outside the theater because our mother did not want us dating, so we could not be picked up at home. This also would avoid the boys dropping in on us at home unexpectedly. It would be a few hours before the boys would be picking us up, so Dexter and I took our time picking out our clothes for our date. I was hoping that something would happen so I would not have to go out with Henry, like maybe a comet hitting the earth. If I was going to go out with Henry, the first was going to do it as dressed as possible. We had several bras and panties, but I went to Corinne's lingerie drawer and took her sexiest French cut panties and bra. If Corinne finds out they are missing or have been worn, I am blaming you for making me do this. I told Dexter. We dressed in our best skirts and tops and borrowed high-heel shoes from Corinne. We had heels of our own, but Corinne's were more colorful, ours were just black. I loved getting dresses up nice as much as I hated having to go with a boy. How do you know you don't like going with a boy? You've never done it before, you might like it, Dexter asked me. I just don't like it. It is not right. We are boys, we just look like girls. How can you be so calm about it? Okay, Dexter said, if after tonight you don't like it, I will never ask it of you again. Now come here and give your favorite sister a big sloppy kiss. We took each other in our arms and French kissed for a few minutes before putting on our lipstick. Maybe, Dexter said, if your guy does try to kiss you, you could pretend it is me. It might be easier. I was pretending Benny was you all afternoon. Dexter said. Okay. I'll give it a shot. I will admit after looking at myself in the mirror that I never looked prettier. We met the guys at the theater where they paid for our tickets. I knew immediately that this was going to be a long, scary night. I wished I had Dexter's confidence, he seemed so cool and at ease. As soon as we were seated, Henry had his arm around my shoulder. I had no choice but to lean into him and snuggle. It wasn't long before I felt his breath on my neck and he was kissing it. Rather than delay the inevitable, I turned my face to him. He kissed my lips, gently at first, but soon I felt his tongue on my lips and opened my lips to accept him. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, so I allowed him to do what he wanted. He played with my foam rubber breasts and tried several times to reach up my skirt, but I stopped him at that. I told him, after the third or fourth time, that if he did it again I would get up and leave. I realized that allowing him to kiss me, and me kissing him back, was not fatal. I became more at ease and cooperative and did get to like making out with him even though he was a boy. By the end of the movie I almost felt comfortable playing a girl with a guy. I thought that, eventually, I might get to like it, but by then the movie was over and we headed for a soda before splitting up and going home. I hoped Dexter was not going to tell them where we lived. We got home just before 11. I guess that was when screwing around with Henry got to me. I felt sexy. Dex and I had a birthday a few weeks ago and Corinne gave us each a pair of sexy nighties. We wore them that night. Dexter was always a bit more on the daring side than I was. His gown was a short gown with ruffles and an elastic neck which he wore off his shoulders. Mine was ankle length with a lot of lace at the hem and sleeves. I guess that if we were both real girls he would be the one who always had a boyfriend because of the way he dressed, and the fact that he liked boys, while I would be the wallflower. I am conservative and I like girls. After my date that evening I was beginning to question if I was as straight as I thought I was. Dexter and I were going to sleep in the guest room because it was a lot more feminine than our room. We did not want to use Corinne's room. This meant that we would sleep in the same bed, something neither of us would do as ourselves. The bed was small, so we had to hug each other. I fell asleep in his arms. When I awoke in the morning we were my back to his stomach and he had his arms around me. I think they call it the spoon position. I quickly jumped out of bed, awakening Dexter as I did so. He seemed embarrassed that he had an erection. He ran to the bathroom and I could hear him pissing. I heard him take a shower, so I picked out what I was going to wear that day. We were going to go out for brunch. I picked out one of my favorite outfits, a skirt and top that I would wear almost every day if I could. I picked out 2 outfits because I knew that I would be changing at least once more before I would have to go back to wearing my regular clothes. Why is dressing like a girl such a stigma? I don't know how many times I wanted to tell my parents that I loved wearing girls' clothes. One reason I didn't was because it would bring Dexter into the equation and I didn't have the right to do that. This is already the longest that either Dexter or I continually dressed as Amy and Beth because this was the first time we were alone for an entire weekend. Our parents would go away for the weekend several times a year, but my aunt always watched us. Corinne convinced them that if she was old enough to watch us for a few hours, she was old enough to watch us for a weekend. The problem was that this was to be the first weekend she would be watching us, and the lack of communication left us alone. Our aunt was on our side, and the four of us convinced Mom and Dad that we could do it ourselves. Besides, Aunt Ruth only lived 15 minutes away. After my shower, Dexter and I got dressed. He also wore his favorite outfit, a red tank top and short pleated skirt. I was in my red turtleneck and short black skirt. We did each other's hair and makeup. After brunch at a restaurant, Dexter convinced me to go walk in the park where, would you believe it? The same boys were playing baseball. Always being the dominant one, it didn't take long for Dexter to convince me to stay and watch. What else are you going to do? Sit home and watch TV, he said. Ben and Howard spotted us and waved. We waved back. It was a long, hot game and our guys' team lost. They came over to us like yesterday and started talking to us. Like yesterday, they asked us for a soda. It was hot and I thought a soda would hit the spot, so I allowed Henry to take my hand as was walked to the soda shop. This time it felt natural and I had no qualms about holding a boy's hand. We walked behind Beth and Benny, and about a block from the soda shop I saw Benny take his hand from Beth's and put it around his waist. Henry did the same to me, and I was surprised at how nice it felt with his arm around me. I moved just enough closer to him that our hips touched. At the shop we again sat with me and Henry on one side of the table and Beth and Benny on the other. The booths were big, but I sat as close to Henry as I could. We shared some fries and a soda and just talked to each other for what seemed like hours. Before we realized it, it was almost 5 o'clock. Beth and I had to go because Corinne would be home soon. She knew what we were doing, being Beth and Amy, but we wanted to be home when she got there. Why? No reason, we just wanted to be there. Beth and Benny kissed goodbye and Henry and I kissed. This time I enjoyed it, wishing I had kissed him sooner. It was unfortunate that we could not see each other again because we, Beth and I, did not know when we would be able to have enough time again. Corinne, Beth and I arrived at almost the same time. Her car pulled into the driveway just as Beth and I were going in the door. We hugged and kissed each other and Beth had to open his mouth and tell her all about our weekend. I was a bit embarrassed when he told her all about our boyfriends. You girls sound like you had a good time, Corinne said. We sure did. It is too bad it has to be over so soon. I told her. I knew that if we ever had the opportunity to do it again, I would not be so nervous if Beth and I had to interact with boys, not that I was looking forward to that. Well, how about we end it with a bang? Corinne asked. How do you mean? I asked. We know that when Mom and Dad take these weekends, they never come home before midnight. I also know that you two have been eyeing my party dresses since I bought them. How about I let you wear them and we go out to the teen dance club? It closes at 11. That will give us plenty of time to have some fun and still be home before them. We can have a girls' night out, how about it? She was right, at least with me. I had been admiring the dresses she was talking about and did want to at least try one on, but would not without her permission. I looked at Dexter, he looked at me, and we both said yes. We hugged each other. Okay girls, let's get ready. I'll have to do your makeup and I think I can do something with your hair. You look good enough as you are, but not for where we are going. Start getting dressed and call me when you are ready. In our room, Dex and I stripped to our bras and panties. Corinne knocked on our door and walked in holding the dresses. She held them out and chose one for me and one for Dex. Knowing this was a special and a first, she also brought us each a waist snipper, which she helped us get into after our shower. Good old Corinne also brought us each a sexy set of panties and bra, both brand new, still in their packages. In our panties and bras we called her to help us with our cinchers. With the cinchers our padding looked so much better, it showed more curves. When I put the dress on it fit as if it had been made for me, so perfect. Dexter's was just as pretty on him. Corinne was called to do our hair and makeup. Whenever Beth and I got dressed we did as best we could and always did a good job, but when Corinne finished with us it made what we used to do so amateurish. I asked her to teach us how to it for the future. She gave us matching purses and a flower to carry. I don't know why the flower, but they did look nice with the dresses. As she opened the front door we were met with a most dreadful surprise. Our parents were just reaching for the door. 3 stunned girls staring open-mouthed at 2 just as shocked parents. They weren't supposed to be home for several hours. We stepped back inside. Mom and Dad looked Dexter and I up and down several times. "Sit," is all Mom said to us, the 3 of us. We sat side by side on the couch, Corinne in the middle. Mom and Dad went to the kitchen for a few minutes. Mom came back alone and looked at us all dolled up as we were. "I would assume there is an explanation for this," she said, pointing to Dexter and me. We were so busted there was nothing to do but tell the truth. We told her that for years Dexter and I had been dressing as girls and we liked it. We talked for about an hour telling her that we meant no harm and that we were sorry. "I want you 3 to meet someone. Barbara, you can come in now," Mom said. "Barbara? Who the hell is Barbara?" We looked where she was looking and saw a very attractive woman walk through the door. She was wearing a very short red dress that followed her curves and left little to the imagination. Her dress was sleeveless and just barely covered her crotch. Her high-heel shoes were red to match her shoes. Her hair was long, to well below her shoulders. She was smiling broadly and she was our father. "Girls, meet Barbara." Corinne, Dexter, and I looked at each other. It was almost a full minute before we gained the power of speech. Movement would come later. Barbara, our father, crossed the room and sat so sexily on a chair near us. "I guess we owe you girls an explanation. In case you haven't guessed, your father is a cross-dresser, just like you two." She indicated Dexter and me. "For several years," she continued, "we have been going away so he could live as Barbara for a few days. It helped relieve tensions and made him a better person. You may have noticed how much calmed he was after these weekends." As Mom talked I noticed that Corinne, Dex, and I were staring at Barbara. She was pretty. Could I ever look that pretty? I guess you are surprised at a lot of things tonight, and in case you are interested, we are home because of a small fire at the resort we were at. It is a place for people like us, cross-dressers and their families, transgenders and others. Can you understand the shock when we opened the door to see our 2 sons dressed so pretty? Mom, Dad, Dex, Corinne and I all had the same idea at the same time. We met in the middle of the room for a group hug. Mom and Dad told Dex and me how pretty we were and of course we told Dad how pretty he was. "Have you girls eaten yet?" Dad/Barbara asked. He meant me, Corinne and Dex. "No, we were going out to the teen club for something to eat and a few dances," Corinne explained. "Terrific," Mom said. "I'll go change and the 5 of us girls can go to someplace fancy to get acquainted." How does that sound? Do you mean we can go dressed like this? Dex asked. Sure, I would love to show off my daughters and best girlfriend. She went to her room to change while Barbara and we got acquainted. Barbara told us, Dex and me, that we could dress whenever we wanted, and now that the cat was out of the bag, so could he. Mom was ready in a few minutes and 5 attractive girls climbed in the car and headed for a fancy restaurant far across town. That night was the best ever. We got a private dining room so we could talk privately. Mom and Dad told us all about the place they went to. It sounded like fun. All the people there were either cross-gendered, transsexual, cross-dressers like Dad, Dexter and I, or had family and loved ones who were. There was no judging there. It sounded so fun, and when we expressed a desire to go there, Mom and Dad were thrilled. The club met once a month and had a camp where people could attend for as long as they wanted during the summer when people could take their vacation. There was one thing that Dad, Barbara, brought up, and that was that whenever any of us was in our femme persona, we were to be referred to as a girl. So the rest of the night I was Amy, Dexter was Beth, and Dad was Barbara. The next week was fun for Dexter and I. The five of us made a date to go to dinner at a supper club for our first official family outing as girls. Mom took Beth and me shopping for a fancy dress so we could go with Mom and Barbara the next time they went away for another weekend. One rule though: as long as school was in session we could not be any in Beth, but on weekends or when invited to by our parents, and we had to keep our grades up, which was not hard for us. We were almost always on the school honor roll. Most of our clothes were hand-me-downs from Corinne or from garage sales or thrift shops. Mom told us, Dex and me, to come directly home from school so we could go shopping for a dress of our own to wear for our first weekend as a family of girls. Dexter and I were excited about going shopping with Mom. To me it was a final acceptance that I was a girl, albeit part-time, and that was all I wanted. Right after school, Dexter and Howard went to their rooms and Amy and Beth came out. It was a lot of fun shopping with Mom and Corinne. I used to see so many moms and daughters shopping together and having such fun. The first thing we bought was lingerie, bras and panties. We are not a rich family, so both Beth and I were restricted to one fancy dress each and a few regular dresses and other girl clothes. We were limited, after our party dresses, to $200 each. Even though we had been cross-dressing for years, neither of us had even gone near a lingerie shop. I can only talk for myself, but I was extremely nervous my first time there, even though I had a small army with me: Mom, Corinne and Beth. I think Corinne was having a bit of fun with us because she kept holding bras up against us to see how they looked. A few times she made Beth and I try on a few of the fancier ones. We were finally able to pick out half-dozen bras and panties each. We would share them, so in essence we had an even dozen sets. We finally made it to the dress shop and I was in heaven with all the colors and dresses. I felt like a kid in a toy shop. I so wanted to try all of them on, and I think I can assume that Beth was in the same mindset. I saw one that I really liked, but it was just a bit too snug in the waist. Mom left Beth and me in the dressing room, saying she would be back in a few minutes. In the meanwhile, I helped Beth on with his dress. Actually, all I did was zip him up. His dress was beautiful and I immediately asked if I could borrow it sometime. I had just zipped him up and smoothed his dress down when Mom returned with a waist cincher. My dress was hanging loosely from my shoulders. I slipped it off and Mom hooked the cincher around my waist and pulled the laces tight. The dress fit me perfectly after that. I had to go no further. That was the dress for me. Beth and I stood side by side admiring ourselves in the mirror. Our dresses were almost alike but different colors. Mine was blue with designs, a tight waist and ruffles at the flared-out skirt, and was low-cut. Beth's was a solid red with a dropped waist and ruffles. Both dresses came to just barely above our knees. Of course, we needed shoes and purses. While we were paying for our dresses, Mom disappeared for a few minutes. Corinne had Dad's charge card and Beth and I tried to get her to get us few other things, but she said no because she gave her word to stick to a certain budget and we had already exceeded it, but not by much. Mom met us a few stores away with a small bag. I guess she had been shopping for something for herself because the bag's logo was from the lingerie shop we had visited earlier. Reluctantly, we went home. When Dad came home, we showed him our things, which he said were lovely. He said we would get a chance to wear them this Saturday night because he was taking his girls out to a supper club. We knew of the place. It was very fancy. Men had to wear jackets and ties and women had to wear dresses or gowns, no pants allowed, for the women that is. Can you imagine the men with jackets and no pants? I don't need to tell you how long that week was for Dexter and me. It just dragged on and on. Finally Friday came and we could be Amy and Beth again.